When Lamar Jackson went down against the Chiefs, it felt like the entire stadium held its breath. The Ravens were already struggling, but watching number 8 limp off the field turned a tough loss into a nightmare. And now, the big questions are hanging in the air. What exactly happened to Lamar? How long could he be out? And what does this mean for the Ravens moving forward? That matchup with Kansas City was supposed to be Baltimore's chance to bounce back after the stumble against the Lions. Instead, it turned into something very different. The Ravens were completely outplayed. Patrick Mahomes looked like he was in total control, picking apart the defense, exploiting every mistake, and putting points on the board before Baltimore even found its footing. The 37-20 final score told the whole story. This game was one-sided from start to finish. The Ravens' offense tried to respond, but it never found rhythm. Drives stalled. Third down slipped away, and the team was constantly playing from behind. Meanwhile, Mahomes kept the chains moving with short throws, controlled the tempo, and made everything look easy. Baltimore never dictated the game, and the frustration kept building as the gap widened. Defensively, things weren't any better. This unit, usually a strength, couldn't hold up under the pressure. The secondary was exposed, and up front, the Chiefs dominated the line of scrimmage, opening lanes for both the pass and the run. That killed Baltimore's momentum. Even when the offense made progress, the defense immediately gave it back. It was one of those nights where nothing seemed to click. And then came the biggest blow. Lamar Jackson had to leave the game in the second half with a hamstring injury. Losing the game was bad enough, but losing your franchise quarterback on top of that made the night a disaster. Without him, any slim hope of a comeback was gone. That mix of poor execution and the uncertainty around Lamar's health left Baltimore in a dark place. And that's where the focus quickly shifted. How bad is this injury, and what does it mean going forward? When Lamar walked off to the sideline, his body language told the story. He was clearly uncomfortable, and it didn't take long to realize he wasn't coming back. The early read was a hamstring injury, and while the severity isn't yet known, the simple fact he couldn't return was alarming. Missing Lamar for any stretch of time changes everything for this team. The difference was felt immediately, even with the scoreboard working against them. As long as Lamar was on the field, there was always a chance for something special to happen. But once he left, that spark disappeared. The offense became predictable, lost its flow, and Kansas City's defense controlled the game with ease. It wasn't just losing Lamar's talent. It was the emotional hit, too. Knowing the guy who carries the team can't be out there crushes morale. Baltimore unraveled after that. The score was already ugly, but his absence turned it into a full-blown crisis. Now the only question that matters is, how long will he be out? That cloud of uncertainty is what makes the situation so heavy, because the Ravens don't have a backup who can replicate even a fraction of what Lamar brings. And that brings us straight to John Harbaugh's post-game comments, which didn't exactly calm anyone down. After the game, Harbaugh was asked about the decision to keep Lamar out, especially since the score was already lopsided. But instead of shedding light on it, the coach chose not to answer. He wouldn't say whether Lamar would have played if the game had been closer. That silence didn't sit well with a lot of people. On one hand, it makes sense. Why risk Lamar in a game that looked unwinnable? Protecting your star quarterback is a logical move. But on the other hand, dodging the question only fueled speculation. Was the injury more serious than Harbaugh let on? Did the staff already know something they weren't saying? Moments like this carry weight inside the locker room. Players respect when a coach protects a star, but they also notice when answers are vague or when communication seems off. By brushing aside, Harbaugh may have unintentionally added even more doubt to the situation. The result was a mix of frustration and confusion. Baltimore didn't just leave Kansas City with a tough loss. They left with unanswered questions about the most important player on their roster. And all eyes immediately turned to the medical test scheduled for the next day.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video. But before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
On Monday, Lamar was set to undergo a full round of tests to find out just how bad this hamstring injury is. What we know now is that it's a strain, but that can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes it's just a week or two. Other times, it lingers and becomes a long-term problem. The NFL schedule doesn't give anyone a break. The Ravens face the Texans next week, and the question is whether Lamar will be ready. Every single day of recovery counts, and even small improvements in practice could determine if he's under center. Baltimore needs clarity fast so they can prepare with Lamar if possible, without him if necessary. And this isn't just about Houston. It's about the bigger picture. A hamstring injury that isn't handled right can linger and derail an entire season. Baltimore can't afford that. The coaching staff knows it has to balance urgency with caution, because rushing him back could be a costly mistake. That waiting game has everyone on edge. The Ravens' entire identity depends on Lamar Jackson, on what he brings to the air and on the ground. And while the team holds its breath for results, one thing to look back at is what Lamar managed to do before he went down. Even on a rough night, Lamar reminded everyone why he's one of the league's most dangerous weapons. He went 14 of 20 passing for 147 yards, with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. On the ground, he added 48 yards on 6 carries, keeping the defense honest with his legs. Those numbers might not pop at first glance, but they come with context. The offense was sputtering. The Chiefs' defense was swarming, and yet Lamar still found ways to move the ball. That's the kind of presence that keeps Baltimore alive, even when the odds are stacked against them. Once he left, the drop-off was obvious. The plays lost their explosiveness. The passing game slowed, and the ground attack stopped being a threat. The contrast was night and day. With Lamar, the Ravens always have a chance. Without him, that margin for error disappears. The stat line doesn't tell the full story, but underlines a bigger point. Baltimore can't afford to lose Lamar Jackson. His recovery is the number one storyline for this team. Until he's fully healthy, uncertainty is the Ravens' toughest opponent. Losing to the Chiefs would have been bad enough on its own, but watching Lamar Jackson limp off the field pushed it to another level. The Ravens didn't just lose a game. They lost momentum, confidence, and now face days of uncertainty while waiting on test results. Without Lamar, this team loses not just its offensive engine, but the heartbeat of the roster. And that's what makes this moment so tense. Will Baltimore have their leader back against the Texans next week, or are they staring at a stretch of turbulence without their MVP? One thing's for sure, the answer to that question could completely reshape the Ravens season.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.